If there's one thing you don't want to get backstage in WWE, it is heat. Because heat can do everything from cancel your push to get you hauled into wrestler's court to, in extreme cases, get you wished the best of luck in your future endeavors. Sometimes heat can be warranted, and there are plenty of examples of WWE stars doing themselves no favors with the way they conduct themselves. There are also plenty of other occasions where the source of the heat is, quite frankly, preposterous. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 ridiculous reasons WWE stars got backstage heat. Join us! Number 10. Giving a writer an action figure. Wrestlers trying to curry favor with the writers, bookers, road agents, and other influential backstage personnel is a common phenomenon. While not all WWE stars do it, everyone from the main eventer to the lowliest jobber can be guilty of playing politics in this way. Bob Hardcore Holly believed that he had caught Edge and Christian red-handed when he witnessed the tag team not only socializing and having a laugh with writer Brian Gewirtz, but giving him a gift too. Soon after Sparky Plug watched Ian C. hand Brian a Flash action figure, the Canadian duo were hauled into wrestler's court along with the Scribe. Edge and Christian were tipped off about their court date in advance by Kurt Angle, and thus had time to prepare a humorous defense, complete with props such as a mocked-up book titled Edge and Christian, How to Kiss Ass, Our Road to the Top, which quickly got them off the hook. A case of beer for the APA, a bottle of Jack Daniels for The Undertaker, and a tub of protein powder for Holly later, and the charges were dropped. Poor Brian, on the other hand, had to sit there and take it as the locker room verbally raked him over hot coals. Number 9. Losing a game of Dodgeball. Being taken to wrestler's court for a backstage misdemeanor is one thing, but an on-screen felony is another altogether, as the WWE Divas found out after SummerSlam 2004. The established crew of Jazz, Molly Holly, Nydia, Gail Kim, Stacy Keibler, and Victoria lost a game of Diva Dodgeball to the Diva Search contestants, mostly thanks to Michelle McCool, who it turns out is a regular white goodman on the dodgeball court. This didn't sit well with the boys in the back, who felt their convincing loss painted the business in a bad light. Triple H sat in as judge, with Val Venus as prosecuting attorney and Ivory acting as the defender for the women's crew. According to Ivory, she pleaded a good case and would have won had the locker room not already decided that the Divas were guilty. Guilty of, losing a game of dodgeball, lest we forget. So they lost the case, and Ivory tried to bribe the game with a Red Roof Inn gift card, which apparently got a pop from those observing the trial, since it was well known that Hunter stayed at much fancier hotels. Number 8. Using a chiropractor. A professional wrestler's body is in many ways their prized possession. Given how important their body is to their work, wrestlers go to great pains to keep it in the best possible condition. So you would think a WWE star in a great deal of agony deciding to visit a backstage chiropractor wouldn't be such a big deal. Well, you'd be wrong, wouldn't you? Aaron Aguilera, who portrayed Carlito's bodyguard Jesus in late 2004, found himself in the doghouse for utilizing a service that he was under the impression was available to everyone on the roster. However, an unwritten rule stipulated that only the top guys could have their joints manipulated, and once it was discovered Aguilera was taking advantage of a perceived perk, he was ostracized for it. This gets even more stupid when you realize Aaron's WWE run was cut short due to multiple injuries, including herniated discs in his neck, which caused a loss of feeling in his arm and ultimately required surgery to fix. Other wrestlers in later years, including Seth Rollins and Summer Rae, reportedly got heat for the crimes of visiting the backstage masseuse or using ice packs to treat their aches and pains before earning the right to. Mental. Number 7. Booking a holiday. If you or I wanted to book a holiday, we would simply ask our bosses for the time off, have it taken off from our yearly allowance, and then jump on a plane and go to our destination while feeling a slight pang of guilt because we're all, at the end of the day, slaves to the machine. God, I could use a holiday. As could Tyler Bates, who reportedly decided to go on one he had booked instead of working shows for WWE. The then UK champion wanted to go on a tour with the lads rather than his employers and turned down the opportunity to join a main roster loop. It wasn't too terribly long after these reports that Bates dropped the UK title to Pete Dunne at NXT TakeOver Chicago before going on something of a losing streak. WWE probably thought they should have been the big strong boy's top priority, but Tyler must have already booked his flights and hotels abroad and stood his ground. He really didn't want that top man wardrobe to go to waste. Number 6. Misusing an analogy. The SmackDown locker room in the mid-2000s was a dangerous place for a greenhorn to find himself, as it was policed by a crew of intimidating enforcers including The Undertaker, JBL, and Chris Benoit. Matt Striker, who is self-admittedly a bit of a loner whose shyness could be misread as cockiness, found himself feeling the full force of their wrath after making the comment that the blue brand was like high school in comparison to the college of Raw. Taking it as a massive slight, the Goon Squad read him the riot act and kicked him out of the locker room for a while, with Bradshaw also drunkenly challenging the former schoolteacher to a fight in a hotel bar. Striker didn't help himself by brushing off Eddie Guerrero's attempt to give him advice. While Latino Heat simply walked away, Benoit threw his bags into the hallway and banned him from dressing with the rest of the boys. Striker accepted his punishment, even if he did claim his comment was meant to demonstrate how laid-back SmackDown was next to the pressure cooker atmosphere of the flagship show. In any event, things snowballed and the heat lingered for a long time. Number 5, sitting in the wrong seat. Winning your first title in WWE is a cause for celebration, and Michael P.S. Hayes thought he would reward himself and the Hardys by upgrading their plane seats to first class after they bagged the tag straps. Unfortunately for Matt and Jeff, the upgrade meant that one of them inadvertently took a seat that was intended for Kane, who was running late for the flight but just made it at the last minute. The Hardys tried to offer their seats to him, but the Big Red Machine assured them it was all fine, even if the 7-footer wasn't exactly comfortable all the way back in coach. The rest of the boys who witnessed it, most notably Chief Instigator Bradshaw, decided to take Matt, Jeff, and Hayes to Wrestler's Court over the situation. According to Matt, Bradshaw prosecuted them in a light-hearted way by making them out to be rampaging egomaniacs who felt that they were above former world champions. Bribing Taker with Jack Daniels got them out of trouble, but the Freebird, who was the one the crew really wanted to take to task, was ordered to buy Kane dinner at different restaurants for an entire month. Number 4, getting choked out by a diva. Sticking with Matt Hardy for a second, and another altogether more embarrassing reason, the Sensei of Mattitude found himself experiencing some backstage blowback. During a European tour in 2008, Hardy and new interviewer Eve Torres were play fighting at the hotel bar when things got unexpectedly rough. During the skirmish, Eve ended up getting a black eye and, seeing red, decided to put the inebriated Matt in a legit chokehold. Exacting her revenge, Torres not only subdued him, but actually ended up putting him to sleep in front of the rest of the SmackDown and ECW rosters. Matt fact, Matt likes to start play fights with women, push things too far, and then get choked out cold by them. Pouring salt on his wounded pride, Hardy was then supposedly dragged into Wrestler's Court and had the dead man bust his balls over the humbling episode. The incident must have struck a nerve because 6 years later, Stephanie McMahon tweeted a picture of herself putting Eve in the Matt Hardy chokehold. Stiff shot, Steph. Stiff shot. Number 3, spilling chicken over someone's bag. As we've already established, the SmackDown locker room of the mid-2000s was a dangerous place for a newcomer to be. Now imagine you're a naturally annoying newcomer with a reality show background and a faux hawk and, well, you might as well walk around with a sign saying "Haze me" tied around your neck. There was enough to dislike about The Miz already, but when he committed the cardinal sin of eating and subsequently spilling some chicken on a veteran's bag, his life was duly made a misery. The vet in question was a certain rabid Wolverine who flat out ignored Miz's numerous attempts to apologize and exiled him from the locker room. Later describing this period as a career low point, Miz recalled how he would have to get changed in stairwells and janitor's closets and occasionally had to use the arena bathrooms where fans could see him. This went on for months until The Undertaker decided that he had suffered enough and allowed him to get changed with the rest of the roster once again. While Mike Mizanin perhaps should have been more considerate with how and where he ate his lunch, the punishment far outweighed the alleged crime here. Number 2, signing a guaranteed contract. It might be hard to get your head around now, given how his WWE career ultimately turned out, but Mark Mero was hot property in the mid-90s. Vince McMahon wanted the former Johnny B. Bad so badly that he signed Mero to a guaranteed contract, something that was practically unheard of at the time. While the Wild Man was used to getting guaranteed money from WCW, WWE contracts were structured differently, with any guarantees being a token payment for television tapings and the real cash being dished out based on how well the business was doing and how much a performer contributed to that fact. Mero sauntering in with a 6-figure deal naturally rubbed some the wrong way, in particular his former WCW colleagues Steve Austin and Mick Foley. They weren't really angry at Marvelous Mark per se, more that the boss saw more upside in him and rewarded him accordingly. Some of those in the locker room who resented Mero's agreement actually found pleasure in him failing to live up to what McMahon believed was main event potential, and neither he nor his then-wife Sable were missed when they decided to collectively quit. Number 1. Having a good match. You might think, logically, that WWE stars who have a good match on any given show might receive compliments or even a good job from their peers when they get back through the curtain. Well, you look mighty silly for trying to apply logic to the WWE locker room now, don't you bellend? Because stealing the show is not always viewed as a good thing in the eyes of some. Like Booker T, for example. Former WWE Cruiserweight champion Paul London has told a story about how he and Sylvain Grenier, of all people, kicked off a WWE house show in Bangor, Maine on December 12, 2005 with a barn burner. Only when they returned backstage, they saw the Houston native positively apoplectic with rage. According to London, road agent Arn Anderson told him and his confused opponent that Booker, who was due to wrestle Rey Mysterio in a 2 out of 3 falls semi-main event, was furious at the two of them for having such a banger of a match that the rest of the roster might not be able to follow. Booker himself then confronted the puzzled pair and tried to make an analogy about how the opening act for Britney Spears wouldn't try to upstage the pop princess on her own tour. That's right, Booker T is Britney Spears, guys. Now hit me, baby, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, sucker!